Okay, so the menu to me, if I were to describe it, is if you got Ari Aster, M. Night Shyamalan, and Gordon Ramsay together, and this came out. So, Gordon Ramsay and Midsommar, basically. So, I've seen a couple trailers for the menu, but I really had no idea what it was really about, because none of the trailers came captioned, so that is essentially the same as me going in blind to a movie. Yes, there's a couple that goes to an island. It seems like a battle royale kind of fiasco, and they're eating food, and to me, I was thinking that it would be something like, you know, there's cannibalism involved in this movie. So imagine me surprised when there is actually no cannibalism in this movie. I think we're saving that for Bones and All, which I would also like to see. I also watched this movie at the 10:30 showing. It did not end until around 1 a.m. So I was delirious for a good portion of it. It was the only show that had open captions on it. AMC, please get it together. So I was delirious for a good part of it, and I didn't realize, it did not register in my brain until a little bit later that it was a black horror comedy and not just a straight up horror film, which makes a lot of sense now that I go back and think about what happened throughout the movie, because there's little things here and there that you notice that make it a little bit comedic, like when the guy just starts running off and, you know, all of that. Overall, I actually really like this movie. The menu confused me for so long in the night after I watched it that I was like, I've seen Barbarian, and for some reason my brain is like, what the hell is going on? Anywho, I love Anya Taylor-Joy. I've loved her since The Queen's Gambit. And Nicholas Hoult. Okay, if you grew up with Skins UK, the original Skins, then you know who Nicholas is. You know him as Tony Stoneham, and hilariously enough, as I watched this, I was thinking, you know what, this seems like something Tony Stoneham would do to Michelle. Okay, maybe not to the extent of what happens in this movie, but just, you know, doing something ridiculous and getting his girlfriend into a very serious situation without thinking about the consequences and how she would feel. That sounds like Tony Stoneham. I thought the dialogue was great, especially Margot's character. Anya plays Margot. It reminds me of the dialogue in the movie Duel that just came out with Karen Gillan, except Duel is very straight up, obviously, very clearly a satire with the way that it's acted and the lines, but the menu tones it down just a little bit to the point where it's like, okay, this seems like an actual serious movie, but also they know that it's a black horror, and it's just this nice balance between the two. Anya played Margot wonderfully, I want to say, but I'm a little bit biased because I think I love Anya in pretty much everything that I've seen her in. I did read a comment from another video that I watched from Possessed by Horror that said that Emma Stone was supposed to be Margot, and that pairing seems a little strange to me. Not to say that Emma Stone is a bad actor, because she is not, but I think because I've just seen her mostly in comedic things. I mean, obviously she's been in some drama stuff, you know, she's been in the Spider-Man series, so, you know, there's some comedy in there, but it's mostly, you know, the action and the drama. But I just don't know if I see her in a horror like this, even though it is black comedy horror. I think it's possible that she could have or would have done it well, but I think maybe I was agreeing with the comment that I read. She probably would have made it just a little bit too comedic, to the point that you don't really get enough horror from it that you should be getting from something like this. But Anya knows how to play that really well, and I think she fits the character well anyways. And the chemistry between Anya and Nicholas is spot on anyway, in my opinion. The actor who plays Chef Slowik, I think, is also really great, fit the character perfectly. Every time I heard that clap came on, I was wearing my hearing aids watching this movie. Yeah, that started to get me to be a little jumpy eventually. Although I will say, remember when I was talking about how if Ari Aster, M. Night Shyamalan, and Gordon Ramsay collaborated, sat down and talked about something, this is what it seems like would come out. I would have loved a cameo with Gordon Ramsay in it. I don't know why. I think aside from the whole, you know, murderous tendencies from Slowik, there's just something about Ramsay that would have really driven this home, because, you know, Gordon Ramsay kind of has that reputation of being a little bit mean to his chefs, and I don't know, I just thought it would have been really nice to see, because that's the kind of vibe that I got a little bit from Slowick. Now the ending is where it really felt like Midsommar to me. Now keep in mind, Midsommar is a movie I told myself I never want to watch again. It's a good movie, don't get me wrong, I think it's a great movie. But Midsommar made me so much more uncomfortable than Hereditary did. And so when I see Midsommar, I think of it, I'm just like, that's cool, I never want to watch it again. But if you see Midsommar, there's that part where the boyfriend is burned alive. He's drugged and he's burned alive in a little hut thing. And so at the end of this movie, everybody is putting on marshmallow things and chocolate hats on their head. Then the staff just burn themselves alive, and thus the guests go along with them. And they all have that like frozen look in their eyes, and it just reminds me so much of Midsommar. And then Margot is obviously not on that island anymore. She's on the island, but she's currently on her way away from the island because Slowick did let her go. I actually really liked that. What do you want to call it? It's not necessarily a twist, I don't think, but that ending where she gets that light bulb that goes off in her head and she's like, hey, this guy obviously started out at the bottom somewhere cooking burgers and stuff, because when she was sneaking into his cottage, that's what she found, and she put on her thinking cap and went, maybe this is what I can do, this is what I can say to get him to let me go, especially because I wasn't supposed to be here to begin with. My boyfriend, or not boyfriend, but the guy who hired me to be his date got dumped, and you know, da-da-da. I know you're not necessarily supposed to cheer on the villain, but I always end up just thinking villains are more fascinating than the final girl or the final hero. But if you have Anya Taylor-Joy involved, then I guess I have to go for both, right? But the little look in the chef's eyes when she's asking for a cheeseburger, I just really, really love that scene. I didn't expect it, but I think that's a good thing. Obviously, you want to be kept on your toes a little bit. And just the acting in that, I loved it so much. And then the end threw me off a little bit for some reason. Again, I think it's just because it was 12:30 in the morning at that time and I was really, really tired. You know, Anya, or Margot, is a character who didn't necessarily want to be there in the first place. She wasn't as invested in everything because the whole thing is supposed to be about the cooking, right? The chef cares about the cooking, and Tyler, Nicholas's character, was all about the way that was being cooked and things like that. Margot does not care. She's just hungry and she just wants to eat. I know, I really, really like that moment. And I'd watch it again just to see that last part. Some people have a theory that she would go on to be like the next villain, I guess you would say. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think it just ends where it ends. She's probably not gonna tell anybody what happened. Just going by her demeanor when she was eating the food and wiping her face off with the menu. Probably not gonna tell anybody what happened. I can't remember if they mentioned in the movie that this is something that happens regularly, if it was just a one-time thing with the chef. I feel like it's just a one-time thing with that chef. Anywho, I liked it. I actually really enjoyed it a lot. I do think the first act was a little bit of a slow burn, but I also feel like it was important to the build up, and then the rest of it was just, it kept me on my toes, and you know, I'm leaning in like this and just be like, what's gonna happen next, what's gonna happen next. Let me know what your thoughts are on the menu down below. I want to talk about this. Will I have a post about this publicly available on Patreon? I'm not entirely sure, but I do have a Patreon where you do get extra and exclusive content, a lot of it being accessibility content, and well, actually newly being about some horror content, so I'll have a link down below if you want to check that out. Pledge, help support my work, that's always very much appreciated. Also be sure to hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you don't miss out on future uploads, because there's definitely more movies that I want to talk about. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video, and I will see you later.